Good morning. I'm Handel, your daily coffee companion, helping you wake up informed, thoughtful, and maybe just a little amused before the day gets old. If you're commuting, rounding up the kids, or just standing in line for caffeine, you're in the right place. Let's get you caught up. This morning, let's start with the important stuff: our health. Let's talk about aging, not the slow, steady kind we usually imagine, but the kind that jumps. We like to think our bodies and brains wear down gradually, one day at a time. But new research says that's not quite true. Instead, we age in spurts, sharp biological and neurological shifts that hit at certain decades of life. A massive new study out of Stanford found that our bodies experience two big bursts of aging, one in our mid-40s and another around 60. During these phases, thousands of molecules in our blood, immune system, and metabolism suddenly change direction. Cholesterol climbs, inflammation spikes, hormones shift. It's like your body silently reboots, only slower to load each time. That could explain why so many people hit their mid-40s and suddenly feel different. More tired, more sore, a little heavier, or less resilient, as if something invisible clicked forward a notch. But here's the fascinating part. Our brains seem to follow the same rule. A new Cambridge study mapped the brain architecture of thousands of people, from birth to age 90. And what they found were 5 distinct epochs of brain life, almost like different software versions. Version 1 runs through childhood, when the brain is wiring itself at lightning speed. Version 2 covers adolescence and young adulthood, up to about age 32, when our neural networks are still refining, pruning, and optimizing. Version 3, our adult brain, stays remarkably stable through our 30s, 40s, and early 50s. Then around 66, version 4 begins, early aging, when some circuits start to loosen. And finally, around 83, version 5, when communication between brain regions begins to fragment more noticeably. So, both body and mind don't just age, they shift gears every few decades. Scientists think these bursts may be built-in checkpoints, moments when our biology reconfigures itself, for better or worse. What does that mean for us? It means your 40s and 60s aren't just birthdays, they're biological milestones. The habits you build before those shifts, exercise, sleep, nutrition, stress control, can either cushion or amplify the impact. So, if you've ever wondered why aging seems to sneak up on people in midlife, the truth is, it doesn't sneak, it surges. And those surges, they're reminders that aging isn't a slow fade, it's a series of leaps. Our job is to land each one a little more gracefully than the last. The news is next. For the news this morning, we've got 2 heavy stories. In Stockton, California, a family gathering at a banquet hall turned into tragedy Saturday night. A shooter opened fire during what officials say was a child's birthday party, leaving 4 people dead and 10 injured, with victims ranging from children to adults. Authorities say early indications suggest it was a targeted attack, though the suspect remains at large and no motive is yet known. Local leaders called it a devastating blow to the community, and police are urging anyone with information to come forward. Halfway around the world, a massive fire ripped through the Wang Fu Court apartment complex in Hong Kong's Tai Po district. The death toll has now reached 146 confirmed, one of the deadliest fires in the city's recent history. Officials say the blaze spread fast, engulfing multiple high-rise towers. Authorities arrested several people connected to renovation work at the complex and have suspended dozens of building projects pending safety reviews. Thousands of mourners have visited makeshift memorials, leaving flowers and notes. Many remain displaced, and investigations into possible fire code violations and negligence are ongoing. That's your global and domestic news update this morning. Next, we continue talking about our brain and decisions. Now for tech and culture. Part 3 on the human brain and logic. Today we discuss when logic meets emotion. Every mind has two languages. One speaks in logic, the other in feeling. Logic says, if this, then that. Emotion says, even if this, maybe still that. For George Boole, the 19th century mathematician who gave us Boolean logic, thought was something you could measure. A lattice of truth and falsehood that could be mapped like geometry. He believed reason was the highest reflection of divine order. But what he may not have realized is that emotion runs parallel to that order, not against it, but beneath it. When you feel empathy, your brain isn't turning off logic, it's adding a new variable. Emotion doesn't erase Boolean thinking, it complicates it, introducing maybe into a world built on yes or no. That's what makes us human. Computers calculate, we deliberate, we can override the formula when love, loyalty, or mercy demand it. And yet, some minds still lean closer to Boole's pure clarity. Autistic thinkers often describe life as a series of precise if-then statements, a constant search for rules that hold. When those rules break, when people say one thing and mean another, it can feel like the world itself is glitching. It's not a failure of empathy. It's empathy that requires truth to stay steady. And in that sense, maybe the autistic mind is the most honest mirror we have. It shows us how fragile our logic becomes when we let emotion twist it. Boole once wrote that logic was the science of the laws of thought. But emotion is the poetry of thought, the part that refuses to fit neatly into a truth table. It's why an act of kindness can defy reason, and why love makes us ignore probabilities that never add up. The miracle isn't that logic and emotion collide. It's that they coexist every second, balancing each other like binary stars. So next time you wrestle between your head and your heart, remember that's not confusion, that's design. You're living proof that even in a Boolean brain, truth and feeling can still dance in the same circuit. Tomorrow, we discuss whether some brains are wired to seek patterns more than others. For the lighter roast, on to the last in our Love by the Numbers series. Love by the Numbers, Part 4, the effort equation. We've talked about the odds, the timing, the filters, and yes, the numbers don't lie. Statistically, finding someone who truly fits is rare. The ratios, the mismatched intent, the geography, they all stack against us. It's enough to make you think love's just a lottery ticket with bad odds. But here's the thing, the numbers are real, but they're not the whole story. Because statistics measure chance, not effort. And effort changes everything. Effort is showing up when most people ghost. It's being curious instead of guarded. It's deciding to give someone a second look instead of another swipe. It's texting back when you could disappear, and choosing honesty when silence will be easier. Love might start with luck, but it only lasts through work. Every great connection you've ever heard about, the meet cute, the slow burn, the we just clicked, all of it required someone who stayed in the conversation a little longer than the algorithm expected. Sure, the math says it's hard, but the math can't predict persistence. It can't measure the courage it takes to keep believing in connection when the last one didn't work out. And it definitely can't calculate chemistry, that spark that makes all the data irrelevant. So yes, the odds are real, but so is the choice to keep trying. Because when effort meets timing, and openness meets opportunity, that's when numbers turn into names. And in the end, that's all love ever was: a small statistical miracle multiplied by effort. For our commemoration today, December 1st, it's a date marked by a number of impactful events and solemn observances. First is World AIDS Day. Since 1988, December 1st has been observed worldwide as World AIDS Day, a time to raise awareness about HIV/AIDS, honor those lost to the disease, and renew efforts toward prevention, care, and support. Next is Great Union Day in Romania. Today, Romanians celebrate Great Union Day, commemorating the 1918 union of Transylvania, Bessarabia, and Bukovina with the Kingdom of Romania, a turning point in Romanian history that helped shape the modern state. Now looking back at historic December 1st events. In 1955, Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat on a segregated bus in Montgomery, Alabama, a bold act of civil disobedience that ignited the bus boycott and helped galvanize the U.S. civil rights movement. In 1913, Henry Ford introduced the first moving assembly line for mass automobile production, a revolutionary development that changed manufacturing and mobility forever. Today we remember, from global health struggles and the ongoing fight against AIDS, to national identity and historical milestones that reshape societies. Whether you mark the day with a red ribbon, a quiet moment of reflection, or a nod to history, December 1st is a day for awareness, remembrance, and hope. And that wraps up today's show. Thanks for listening. We've covered sharp shifts both in our bodies and brains, the heartbreak of violence and tragedy across the globe, and the power of dates like December 1st to remind us of loss, history, and hope. Be aware and compassionate. We'll be back tomorrow with more stories and another chance to think, feel, and connect. This is Handel for the Brief Wake Up. Stay calm, kind, and curious. Till next time.